everyone, and welcome to Brainstorm, episode... Dang it, I lost count again.
Oh, hi, Vark.
Oh, hey, Meso.
Vark.
Hi, Vark. How's it going, everybody? Hold up, I'm stalling until I can find the
Hi,
episode
Meso.
number. Hold up. It says 17. This is Brainstorm episode 17. I'm Var.
I am here! And also Meso.
I'm John.
And I'm Prpl. I almost said I'm Gary.
Oh, I should have been like, legend has it that. I'm John.
Legend has it that. Can that be the official tagline for Brickonicle? Legend has it that.
Legend.
Yeah, I was gonna say BIONICLE. Legend has it that.
That could be the name of our TV show. Legend has it that.
Just as for people who weren't part of our live studio audience on patreon.com/the2TV channel, we were talking about this
Ninjago bootlegs.
Ninjago bootlegs.
Well, in particular, this one was a Bionicle bootleg that was, we were talking about because of Ninjago bootlegs, but it was a bootleg that came out back in 2015 of Golly. It was named Gary Master of Water.
Yep.
It's like they didn't even try. Like all the other Toa had like cool sounding names, right? Like Bionicle sounding names, like I don't know, Taku or something. But then you get like from Taku and Onuku or something to Gary Toa Water.
Pretty much.
Anyway, this is Brainstorm, the show where we make our own Bionicle spin-off reboot line with the sole intent of reimagining Bionicle as a system theme. If you're just joining us, I recommend going back and listening to maybe some of our older episodes. We're getting to that point now that we're almost we're almost done with year one, I would say. Like we need to plan out what our official set list, right?
Yeah.
The sets that we want to roll out for the year. And then we should probably finish like the latter half of season 1 for the TV show. But other than that, we're almost done. We do need official design for Matoran and the Rahkshi, too.
Right.
Once we have that kind of squared away, then
right. Then we have this. The story Bible is basically all set. We have an idea of what the story's going to look like. We just need to come up with I would say rough outlines of the rest of the episodes, maybe a script or two. But we could also, some people in the community did express that they wanted to write a script as well, so they are more than welcome to contribute in that way.
You want to try your hand, by all means.
I mean, we've already had a couple that were pretty successful too. They weren't like formatted like a TV show script though, but like some of them, like Dark Maestro's scripts that he wrote.
There's a free program called Celtics. I think it's CELTYX. And that is, or no, sorry, no Y. CELTX. And basically, it's a free script writing program. And you don't even need to download anything. You can just do it like on the web. So if you want to, if you don't have Final Draft or anything like that, no problem at all. Just go up and download, or not even download. Go to that website and start writing. Totally do it.
Alternatively, you can also just use Google Docs or something, because that's what I use for everything. But
yeah, but that doesn't.
It's more work to get it formatted correctly in Google Docs, and if it were to just get a program that specializes in it.
And the problem is that it not only does it make it look more official, it actually helps you judge how long your script is going to be, so that the script is formatted in a certain way.
Yeah, because if you're using universal formatting, then you kind of have an idea, a rough estimate of how long the episode itself will be. 20 pages. A page is usually a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So that's how the format's universal, because it's really quick and easy for producers to read through the script and immediately know how long that episode can be and whether it can be approved or not. So.
Cool. I write comics, so I don't really worry about time.
Yeah, well, obviously.
I'm glad you don't care, Prpl.
This is just helpful information for the people that may want to try giving it their own, spin on things.
Their own little,
Try their hand at it. Just so you guys are aware.
Let's official designs for the Matoran. I did get I'm gonna put this up as soon as the episode's done. I get an Illustrator template done for just the Matoran. And then you can kind of go inside that and edit that to your heart's content. But that should hopefully help people who just need the outline or are working on stuff. once we get the official Matoran designs as well, I want to try to create like an Illustrator outline of that so that people can like, edit their own Matoran and do all that stuff without it looking kind of janky or kind of weird. There's a template that people use to create their own Matoran in the past that I love the creativity that went behind the movement, but the template they used, the actual like Matoran, it had the legs parted a weird way, and I wasn't a fan of that. So
Yeah.
Indubitably.
Find it, but there you go.
So yeah, we're definitely reaching a kind of a stopping point in terms of year one, which is exciting because then we can actually compile all this stuff together and actually kind of make like a short form video series where we can explain it in depth for people and catch them
Yeah,
up.
That's loop people
that's
in.
what I'm excited about.
I'm excited about that too.
Me too. I'll actually know what's going on.
It's been so long. There's so many people that are like, I want to know what's going on, but I can't keep up. So that'll definitely be fun. But yeah, for now, let's see. What are we going to be talking about today?
Everything.
Everything. So there are a couple topics here, some design stuff, and then some question stuff. So we'll talk about those. If there's any time left, we'll see what else we can squeeze in. But for now, the first thing we're going to be talking about is something that I'm sure a lot of people in the patron audience are more than aware of and are curious to hear our opinions on. It is Ragdoll's Kurahk animated series character design.
Cool.
Ragdoll is the ever present, ever amazing dude on the message boards who is constantly making just incredible stuff to really get us inspired in terms of like designing stuff for the show and for Brickonicle and everything. So
Umontu does a good job of like setting the tone of the atmosphere in his art, but Ragdoll I feel has done the most in like actually taking stuff that we then took and used to make the official designs. Like he helped us figure out what the heads of the teller are gonna look like for the minifigures, which was a huge like. In my creativity, I didn't know what that was gonna look like, to be completely honest. And when he did it, I was like, I get it now. It's just unique and cartoony enough to look like Bionicle, but still have personality.
yeah,
So
for sure. So
I wouldn't have expected this particular take on Kurahk, but I do not dislike it.
yeah, this is certainly a different, more of a unique interpretation than I think we were all expecting. At least I was expecting.
Mhm.
It's not a bad thing either.
He's focusing very strongly on his royal upbringing.
Yeah, which is cool. It kind of looks like an undead knight, sort of,
He does.
yeah,
which is neat. So there's that. So kind of like the Lirak one. He has a nice little like kind of comparison with them standing next to each other, which is really helpful. Kind of like the Lirak one. My immediate impression is that it looks really good, though. In some parts, it might be a little complex in terms of detailing, more than it needs to be. If it was an actual character for the for animating purposes, but it's not that bad.
Nope.
So that's not that big of a problem.
Not a huge fan of the light blue. Like I would have preferred if it was like
Yeah,
more white or whatever.
The
same.
white
It's
color's
like-
maybe a must. But I do like the red cape.
Yeah.
Red cape is good. He did a similar thing for his Kopaka too, where he added that light blue, and I wasn't really feeling it there either.
Yeah, it's like sometimes people will use a light blue to replace white just to make it look like more real, I guess, but it's usually almost impossible to tell that's actually blue. Like you see it and you see white instead of like a really, really light blue. So
Mm-hmm.
I do appreciate how he and Kaituhi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, I hope, actually went through the logistics of testing out if a cape can work for an Axel fig, which is really, really helpful. I appreciate that so
that was
much.
a lot of like extra research that went into that I was really
Because that has never been
excited to
done,
see.
so it's really good to see it.
So extra.
You can do it so extra.
I love the prototypes it went through too. He actually made one out of cloth and like cut it out and stapled it and everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, when I saw that, I was like, I'm actually really excited that this will separate him from the Anua figure.
Totally.
And
sure.
kind of make a grander approach to that minifigure.
And
so,
the only other thing that I'm like kind of iffy about, like here's my conundrum.
okay.
I love the head to death. I really, really like that design.
Not even
Not
surprised.
but not for Kurahk. Because we were gonna do the whole thing where the Rahkshi had the same helmet with add-ons, just to signify that they were
Well,
a unit.
were
He looks
we, though?
completely different from
That
Rahkshi.
was a concept someone had made a while back that suggested
That was very foundational in our design, even back from the first concept.
Well, we don't have designs though. That's what I'm saying. Is that like that was a concept someone brought up a while ago. We never made that. We never like said, "Oh yes, exactly. That's what we're gonna do," because we don't have official designs. It was just, I forgot who did that. Who brought up that idea way back when?
Pretty sure it was Ragdoll.
Yeah.
I think he
It might
made
have been
concepts
Imagining.
for the rock.
Maybe.
No, like that wasn't the Mask of Monsters Ragdoll, or was it someone else?
I think the Master
believe
Monster is
so.
someone else.
Huh.
But I'll look for it anyways. I might be wrong.
It definitely
a lot of
wasn't
creative stuff for
Umatu.
this.
At least not the picture that I'm thinking of. Definitely wasn't Umatu style.
No, you're right. It was the Mask of Monsters. It was the Ragdoll.
Either
Yeah,
way, Master
okay.
Monsters isn't what I was thinking of per se, although that is from a set form. I just meant from the art. Every iteration they've been depicted in, by every artist who's drawn them, has drawn them with mostly similar heads.
Yeah, I mean, like I am under agreement that I feel like the head should be similar in design. There should be some kind of conformity there, just to sort of keep that design element consistent, so that it's clear that they're all meant to be, Rahkshi,
Yeah.
the same thing. So I think it's fine to kind of stretch them and change them up a little bit so that they're all a bit unique, but there should be some kind of cohesion between the overall design.
Like
So-
maybe it's just me, but on his scrapped masks thing, the one
There's
on the
one that
right,
looks better.
the one
Yeah.
on the right looks better to me.
I agree. I was just about to say that. I think I like the one on the right the most too, in terms of just general
It does look
shaping.
like,
It looks very Rahkshi-ish.
The Mask of Monsters as well. Here, I'll link this topic so you guys can see it. as well.
Monsters.
But the Mask of Monsters actually has two variations, and one of them, the one on the right, looks like the most like one of these variations.
Pretty true.
So
Yeah.
I do think that like both these variations could work, and I mean, or even
Totally.
three of them. Basically, like there were different there are slight differences, and like if you remember the Toa Anika, they had three different feet, right? And
Yeah.
like, they had three different identifying elements for this entire group. So I do think that we could have like a generic, like like a Rahkshi head, and have that like played around with. So
Well, I mean, I think the concept does it really well, where you have the two different kinds of mask that look similar enough to that they're still the same thing, but varied slightly, and then you can add the add-ons to make them even more varied and custom. I think that works. I think it's a good design element that we could carry into that. So I think if we're going to try to design the Rahkshi into an actual set format, that idea works really well. And yeah, so in terms of like this design, I think it works. It's fine. I do think it conveys more of a like evil knight more than it does Rahkshi, and it's cool to have like the Rahkshi be inspired by like looking like an evil knight, playing up the royalty aspect. But I would like there to be kind of a bit more in between, where it's clearly still the Rahkshi. So I think it's going in the right direction. I think with a couple of small little tweaks and changes here, I think it'd be good. So
yeah, same.
that's my thoughts on it.
I think it's definitely coming along, and I like that he's doing stuff that we can get actual concept art of the Rahkshi, which we've kind of been for our villains. We haven't necessarily 100% focused on in terms of like getting nailed down in terms of design. So.
Nope.
Nah.
Honestly, for me, the only reason I haven't brought it up is because Umatu did those designs earlier
Yeah,
on. I
I've
just
always
fell in
just-
love with them, but we
Yeah,
obviously
I've
do
always
have
liked
to
them as well.
refine them and actually
Yeah,
make them
no,
as
totally,
designs.
totally.
That's kind of been it, right? It's like the Rahkshi have always kind of had designs that worked already. Like Umatu's
Yeah.
designs initially worked for me, so I never thought that I needed to redesign them or anything.
But it is an inevitability.
We will have to kind of take them and kind of
Touch
add
them
the
up.
style to them, so that it's a
Oh.
bit more universal. So
I love
yeah,
everybody
I mean,
thinking it's the best part of this whole project. I would buy so many of these if they were just custom like decal.
yeah. All right. Well, moving on from that for now, we're going to talk about another set concept that was introduced to us. I believe this one's by Sokoda. Yep, it sure is.
Mm-hmm.
Sokoda still in the game, still rocking all the incredible sets and stuff. This one, no exception. This is the Vorahk's Destroyer, or Devourer, not Destroyer. Sorry. And this is more of a kind of a your traditional sort of Lego vehicle set. Kind of
Rahkshi Mobile.
Rahkshi Mobile, very Ninjago seeming. I like it. Yeah, I think it
like
looks
the-
good. Kind
Yeah.
I like the
This set has
skeletal
404
aspects on the
pieces.
car.
Yeah.
Which is about what I'm gonna say around $40, $39.99.
Nah, it looks like it'd be roughly that price too. It works for the price point.
Mhm.
This is sort of taking that concept of using vehicles that are meant to sort of mimic Rahi a bit.
Yeah.
So like last week we were talking about the Kia Shark, the vessel, the boat that was meant to look like a shark. This is sort of like one of those vehicles that looks like another animal, and that works. IMO.
A spiny hedgehog.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he mentions in the topic whether it's actually meant to be a Rahi. I don't think it is.
Nor do I. I think it is just.
I don't
by
think so
design.
either.
I think it is actually a car.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does
Cool.
look like it's based off of one of these giant Rahi. Although one thing I was thinking of in terms of world building is that some of the vehicles that they make could be built out of Rahi like skeletons.
Yeah.
Or like
Totally
if
works
you
what
if
he's
you look at
going
the
for
thing, he
here.
has all the
That
bone
definitely
structure
works
to
with the concept he has here.
Mhm. Right. So like they could there's a kind of a larger Rahi that died and the skeletons got rotted out or something and they just built a thing inside of that.
Look at the wheels. It's so cool.
They have the Rahkshi symbol thing.
Or at least just a spidey symbol. It's
No, it's supposed to be the Rahkshi symbol. I think you mentioned that later on.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
so cool.
That's really cool. Huh.
The only thing that I have to say about this is that it does veer closer to, and he's right that LEGO would definitely want vehicles in their line at some point, but it does veer closer to the. It doesn't feel as Bionicle as some of the other ones did. Like the Matriarch Cavern is the one I'm always pointing to, where I'm like that couldn't
Yeah.
be in Ninjago, that couldn't be in anything. This could be
Pretty
in
true.
something else, but I do feel that we do need to have at least one of these vehicles. I guess maybe I like how the wheels. I like the decal on the wheels, but like the bulkiness of them kind of make it look a bit almost too modern for what I feel the world's at.
Yeah, well, so like if you look at most Bionicle vehicles that we've had before, wheels have not really been a commonplace. We didn't really see wheels up until 2009, or yeah, I think 2009 was the first year they introduced it.
Boulevard, the Destral Cycle. What's an actual set? And to be
Destral
fair,
cycle.
It didn't use an actual wheel piece,
Destral
but
cycle.
it did repurpose turbines as a wheel.
Destral cycle.
Boom.
Yeah,
Picture.
hold up. I'm gonna.
Okay, 2008, sure.
It's not. It's
at this.
pseudo wheel.
I mean, I'd say those are
No,
wheels.
that's a
fine.
wheel. That's a wheel.
Yeah.
What else would they be?
Well, no, I mean the piece itself is turbines. They just smacked two together and used it as a wheel. So I guess in
Yeah.
universe it is, but they never
It's a
used an
wheel,
actual
but
wheel.
it's fine. My point was that it's just wheels weren't something that we really had in the Bionicle line up until the end. So
Yeah.
it definitely kind of feels sort of different than what we're used to. Like most of the
Yeah.
vehicles for 2008 felt very Bionicle. They felt like taking that concept that the Usanui introduced and really like
Mm-hmm.
rolling with that. Taking
The
that and
floating
expanding
stuff,
upon it.
right?
Yeah,
I was actually
the kind
thinking of like
personal spacecraft sort of thing.
I don't mind wheels as long as they're maybe a bit more like cart wheels, or like not actual cart wheels.
But then you wouldn't be able to have epic rolling action.
Well, no,
I mean, that is certainly a quote we can put on the box.
Yeah.
Epic rolling
Epic
action.
rolling action.
No, just that, at that point you got to take away
New from Bionicle.
the point of wheels in the first place. It can't roll.
Whose idea was it to cast Sonic the Hedgehog to do like the advertising for the Bionicle commercials at the end there?
Well, he
I
only
don't know.
he only did a couple of them, but it was a
He only
very
did, like,
weird
2009.
voice.
New.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was strange. Yeah.
Before it was like new from Bionicle, and it's like new from
Bionicle.
Bionicle. Well, I actually forgot. In 2006, there's the pseudo black guy
Ice
one.
cold
Yeah,
Strat
from
breaks
Bionicle.
the ice.
New from Bionicle.
Bionicle. Proud.
Yo,
Gangs on the loose.
Barnacle. Nothing you can do. Gangs on the
I made a
loose.
little Kanye
We'll
West
become
parody
it
on
too.
my Twitter,
Big
and
shrimp.
I've heard that Bionicle like a billion times because I had to cut it.
Bionicle.
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 'Cause it's not Bionicle, it's Bionicle.
Bah.
I think this is racist.
I was just to say, is this racist?
So anyway, I like the set, but we should.
Only racist
disturb
Yeah.
it.
Hey, we're gonna have to get to a point where we're basically just going to have to go through all of Sokoda's designs and be like, this one's staying
This
in.
one's,
This
yeah,
one's.
and then like this one needs some modifications.
The only
He's got,
thing is-
he submitted so many and they're all so good.
But the thing is that they're all so good. When we actually sit down and get the set list, some of them will just be the straight up the sets he designed. Like as far as I'm concerned, the Matara Caravan, that's a set. Like as far as I'm concerned, that is perfect.
Now, I will say
almost
this.
his other stuff is great. Is almost
In
perfect,
regards
too,
to
but
his
that one,
Vorahk
100%.
minifigure, in order to fit him in the car, he gave him those smaller notched legs from Gremlins, which is what I initially wanted for him. Actually seeing it versus the concept we had last week, where he used that like Darth Maul hip piece to give him the other legs, I'm not feeling it as much.
Yeah,
Only
I don't want the
because-
Darth Maul hit piece actually.
I actually just have a dissenting opinion. I think those look perfect, honestly. I think those look really good, in fact.
Well, it's mainly because every Rahkshi's got a gimmick. You know, Turok has the spider legs, Lyrak's a snake, Cthulhu's got the tentacles, Kurahk is a big fig, and then Panrak is a spider scorpion hybrid, but Vorahk is just kind of a regular dude. I thought his gimmick was going to be like his height. He has nothing going on otherwise.
If
Yeah,
he's
small,
supposed to be like a
unimposing dude.
skeleton, then I guess it makes sense for him to be proportionate, but I don't know.
He's got nothing. He's the Tahu of the Rahkshi. Just the plain person.
You always need your Tahu, Meso. Tahu is the shelf not warmer. I don't know what you would call that. The one who did. You guys remember when Bionicle first came out, trying to find a Tahu in store
yes.
shelves?
I
It was
remember.
impossible.
I
It
had
was
to-
I don't remember that.
I had to settle for Golly because everyone else was sold out.
I settled for Golly as well. She was my very first Toa because I could not find. I checked 4 different Walmarts and Toys R Us's, and like there was no Tahu.
Our
Tahu
friends
sold
got-
out everywhere.
Onua and Pohatu were. The
I ended
ships
up
they got.
finding him at Kmart. Tahu and Pohatu. Picked them up.
Whenever I think about like shelf warmers, I always think of that scene from Toy Story 2 where what's his name, Stinky Pete was like sitting on a dime store shelf watching every toy be sold. That's exactly I always think about.
That's Qatar.
Oh,
More like it was Skull Slicer. I still see that. set.
gosh.
Skull Scorpio.
Yeah, Skull
I got
Scorpio.
I got 4 Skull Scorpios for $2 each a while back because they were on massive clearance.
Those poor Skull
What?
Villains just did not translate well to sets.
Nope.
Eh.
No, they did not.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's
okay.
about it.
I mean, like that's a fair point about the legs. Maybe it's worth considering looking into that a bit more. But I don't know.
I do think that, like I'm trying
personally,
to
I
think of, like,
really like the way that looks.
If he could have some kind of other gimmick, it could work. I just don't know what that would be.
Honestly, well, I mean, I
Pretty
think
boring.
the reason why I think it works for Vorahk is because he's supposed to be hunger, and I like the idea of like a taller, lanky thing representing hunger. I think one thing I was kind of thinking of, because you did mention this, Turok has this spider thing because he's fear, right? And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Does Panrak need to be the scorpion? We kind of did that, but like it's kind of just ripping off Turok's thing. We could give him these legs or something like that, and then like he would be like, because isn't he supposed to be kind of like the Panrak? Isn't he supposed to be kind of like more of the smooth talker and the trader? He was like some trader or something within the lore, so he could have a bit more of a not necessarily a threatening feel, just kind of like a kind of weird looking, but nothing too crazy. Since we already have
And
this
then
spider
I'll-
thing for
I'll
someone.
consider it because I love this concept too much to ditch it. What is that? Something weird.
What?
No, he's just like something weird besides the scorpion legs. Like, let's talk about that. What could we do within constraints?
I don't know the scorpion. Do we have a?
No. I think
has
okay.
he made a concept of Kurahk yet?
Yes. Let me go.
Can we post that? Let's see what
Well,
the differences between the two are.
Well,
Thank
let's
you.
also okay. Well, let's. I'll bring up my pitch for what we can do differently.
Okay.
Here's the two compared.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's different enough.
Yeah,
Let me see.
it's the shoulder pincers, whatever you call them, and the tail.
Well, yeah, and the way the legs are
Okay.
constructed are completely different. You know, despite like looking similar, they're done differently enough. I really like that Turok actually. Now that I'm seeing it,
Yeah, that's
It's
actually
great.
a really good design.
it's really good. Wow.
I
wonder if that
can't
was
get over
adorable.
the torso prints. They're so freaking cool.
Yeah, they really
Yeah.
are, dude.
So,
I'm curious to know what Sokoda's process is for like getting those torso prints on these minifigures and like
He
everything.
gave
I
me a
wonder what he's
tutorial.
done there.
I'll share it.
Oh,
I'll
did he
share it with
really?
you.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's really nice of him.
Yeah. I asked him for it a while back, and he gave me it. I was going to use it for some stuff, but then I started using Blender for stuff, and now I'm trying to figure out how to get prints on that. So,
That's cool. All right.
but
Good to know.
you're right. They do seem different enough. I was initially, honestly, what I was going to say beforehand is that we could keep the shoulder pincers and maybe even the tail, and then replace the legs with like just a normal, or not the normal, whatever legs that this concept of Vorahk has.
Mm.
The gremlin
The
legs
goat
or whatever.
Yeah, the gremlin legs, the goat legs. I recognize
Yeah.
them for the Lego Batman thing. We could do that as well.
What if we gave him wings, similar to the gargoyles from the Lego Batman set?
Mm.
We need.
Oh,
Because I don't think any other ones have wings.
We don't. That could do it. All right.
It could kind of be like a bat, maybe like a cave dweller.
would
ooh,
be
okay. He
down.
could be like a.
Ooh.
We don't know. What do we know about this character again?
Nothing.
The Vorahk?
Not too
We haven't
much
really
about-
sat down
He
and
was,
done it, right?
Vorahk is
We
pretty,
know he's
pretty
not
blank
Onua's
slate.
son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In
He could
terms
be-
of all the Rahkshi, honestly, in terms of anything, the Onu region in general has the least development out of everything else.
Tiro, yeah.
Yeah.
I would
So,
say. I mean, that could work very well. He could have been like a miner because they do have the. Well, they have mines. Actually, no, they have the mines in the
Stone
Motara
region.
in the Stone
Motara.
Range. Yeah, but like, yeah,
as well.
that, that's
So,
true.
A farmer. Underground farmer.
I mean, we don't really need to like. Obviously, yeah, we can come up with a reason why he was underground, but like in terms of like him being underground, it makes sense for his region. There
Yeah.
are plenty of places underground.
No, I like.
He
that.
could have just
Wait,
been a
so are you
businessman,
saying,
but
are you saying
underground.
that we keep the long legs and give him wings as well, or are you?
No,
keep
I'm saying
short
keep the
legs?
gremlin legs and give him wings.
if he has wings, I'm totally down.
Because right now, because I think the gremlin
Well,
legs look perfect. Honestly,
I think they
for
look
me
the best.
personally.
Definitely.
Like if we weren't going with this whole shtick of like trying to give them like some crazy like sort of like Rahi inspired like design element, I think that those legs look perfect, and I would put them on for all 6. I really like how it looks like a normal minifigure while also being unique enough to not be. You know, it has the same element, like the design that's consistent with the rest of the minifigures that I think works really well. So
Totally
I-
down for that.
yeah,
Wing work. Also, Magic Ninja 6195 says, "Well, I don't know of any other headpieces that have places for horns. This is just a placeholder. I'm sure you do know that, but like, hopefully the Rahkshi will."
They have a unique
I'm hoping
mask.
that Lego would give them a unique mask.
Yeah,
that would
they-
have tons of places for horns.
we
you know?
would have a new element for their mask. Yeah.
Yes.
With that said, the element that he used here, I didn't
Very
know it
good.
existed, but it works pretty well.
It was used for now I'm forgetting. I
Space
think it was
Police.
Space Police. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, I'm actually gonna post. Has he done a set for every region? So I think he has, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Vorahk was the last one.
All right, cool. Let's actually post these Rahkshi real quick and compare them.
All right.
See how they all kind of look together.
All right.
Time to go to
Um,
Sokoda's profile.
Do it. I'm pulling up Kurahk.
Okay.
Okay, so Kurahk also only has, at least for his design, also only has normal legs.
Yeah.
But I think we were kind of like on the page of giving him an axle body. Is that what we're going to be
Yes.
doing?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
That's
what
what
I
I
felt
know.
was the idea there.
Totally.
Okay. Actually, here.
Sokoda's design here. Let's zoom into that for Kurahk.
Yeah, and then his Tahu, or not Tahu, his Ta region set, I'm having trouble locating. I know it exists, though. He did like a tower, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mangaia.
Oh, that looks so cool. I
Yeah.
love those tentacle things.
Cthulhu for life.
That looks great. Oh my gosh.
Man.
Sucks that he can't move its legs or anything, but like that looks so cool still.
Yeah. I think Anamatsu's
That's the Ursula
concept
piece,
is
right?
custom legs.
I think so, yeah.
I think that was also like in Atlantis or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Prpl.
Shrine of
Yay.
Wind. Do you remember what the set was called? Because I know for a fact that
It's
Mangaia
Mangaia
Defense
Defense
Tower.
Tower.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just found it. Oh wait, I just
Well,
realized we
that's
already had 2 rock posted. I don't know why I even was trying to look for it.
Why did you even bother, Var?
I don't know, dude. I'm stupid.
There they are.
Hey.
Here's just the standard.
It ought to be here, but it isn't.
They look really good as a unit. I think
They really do.
Vorahk,
They
the
look- they
wings,
all
and
look
making
great.
Kurahk, Axel Fig will definitely
I'll zoom in.
be the way to go.
All right. So let me see. Oh man.
I had to stop for a second because I looked at the YouTube chat, and there's a person on the YouTube chat named Meme Review, and he left 2 comments that were very funny. Meme Review, clap, clap.
Please review our memes.
If anyone has watched PewDiePie, it's like a thing that he does. So I just completely read that in PewDiePie's stupid voice, and that was really funny. Anyway, sorry.
Okay, well, thanks, Var.
Shout out to Meme Review. You made me laugh. I like that.
Awesome.
Anyway.
So back for Umatu's concept art for the Rahkshi, comparing these to the set equivalents. They're pretty similar. The only noticeable differences:
Color schemes.
Kurahk had 6 legs. Yeah, the color schemes. Vorahk had horns and a spike. Well, they all have spiked backs, which I don't think we're going to be able to do. Maybe, depending on the headpiece, but probably not.
We could do it, I think. The thing would be that depending on what we go with, yeah, it would obstruct the back and make it difficult to move the head.
Yeah, and restrict the ability to give them connections on the back, such as wings and the like.
Actually, no, I just realized a way you could do it. You could do it similarly to how the Ninjago movie is doing the backpacks for all the shark
general.
dudes. Yeah, you do it similar to that. Though that does kind of limit their head movement too. Now that I think about it, so.
And then Cthulhu has the same kind of articulated legs that the others would, whereas in Sokoda's thing, it's just a tentacle piece, which I actually think looks better despite having less functionality to it. We could do the other one, but it would dramatically increase Cthulhu's part count. I'm not sure if we could do that or not.
I would not.
Opposed to
I'm not.
try
Well,
it.
here's the thing: if we do that to Cthulhu, then we might as well make Panrak just have the goat legs.
What?
Hmm.
Well, what are you saying? Repeat that.
Because then we would have 3 characters that have like Cthulhu's. If you look at the way that it's designed, it would be designed the same way as Panrak. There's really no way to do the tentacle, like opposable or movable tentacles, without doing exactly what Panrak has. So if we were to do that, we would have essentially 3 spider-themed creatures, and you might as well turn one into a normal goat leg, which none of the concepts here have.
Essentially, we should be doubling up on design concepts, right? So we can have 2 sort of spider themed ones, like Kurahk and Panrak, because they have a similar idea but done differently. We've got 2 kind of like one piece tentacle sort of idea with Lirak and Gurak, and then with the with Vorahk and
They're both
Kurahk.
humanoids. Just
They're both
one has
humanoids.
wings and one's bulky.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Fair enough.
Cool.
I think it works pretty well. How do we feel about the color schemes? Because I'm kind of going back and forth on this one, because I really like the uniqueness that Umatu brought to his concepts, but at the same time, I feel like the color schemes that Sokoda's using are very clear and immediately recognizable, that they stand out amongst each other.
Yeah.
Very clear palettes.
Unfortunately, as much as I really love Turak's white and pinkish red,
I
think
think
it's
you
a
could
dynamite
add some
color
elements
scheme.
of that into the designs. Like, I don't think that Kurahk, for example, Kurahk looks very similar to Tahu, almost too similar. I think the white could like help that stand out a little bit. If they
I
had
would
some
like
closer
for him to have a
printing.
white head, maybe. That might be overkill.
The white head might be
Uh,
White with like the
overkill.
patterns
White
or something.
printing? Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it could have
It would
yeah,
be too much
with
prominence,
patterns or
maybe,
something.
but it would look cool.
It would look cool.
Um,
We should play around with that a bit.
I'm trying to see the secondary highlight colors that work. I like Penrak's blue. I think that offsets him very nicely from Pahatu.
I like the.
I like
the
Kurahk's
Guraks.
pink, to be honest. Kind of cool.
Yeah,
Mm,
I think it would definitely help offset them just to have a different
it
secondary.
does give him like a bit of a tribal, like or like a animalistic.
Perhaps
look.
not to the same
Yeah.
degree that Umatu did it, because it doesn't work with our current aesthetic, but in the sense that the colors differentiate them.
Yeah, and then
I'm
they have
still
like
on board.
scales or like stripes or things that look like animals. That's going to be the most important thing that we kind of like. I would say that we pull from design choices when we're doing these like insignias or this like added designs onto these Rahkshis that. And one thing Sokoda does really well, especially with his Matoran, says is that they look like biomechanical. However, I do feel that the Rahkshis should have a bit more of a animalistic design. They're way more akin to Rahi than anything else in this world.
Yeah. Okay. It'll definitely take some playing around with, I think. We'll probably need to kind of revisit this a little bit after kind of seeing what works and what doesn't. But I think, I don't know, maybe trying to merge between the two color schemes would be good. If Sokoda is willing to try that out himself, it'd be also very helpful. But we'll see what we can do.
Sokoda, you're our only hope.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, we're going to need to get official Rahkshi designs done anyway. So this is probably a good place to start taking this into our own hands, you know?
Too true.
So awesome. That was a good discussion there with the Rahkshi. Really love how those are coming out, how the sets are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we're going to be moving on. Actually, before we move on to it, is there anything else about sets we want to talk about? Because the next few topics are not going to be set related.
We should start like I know we keep saying this. We should like just kind of narrow down the wave of sets that we're going to do. We're going to have 2 waves, a winter wave and a summer wave. So we might as well start hammering down what fits into what category.
At least in the
how many
winter
pieces.
wave. for
I
now.
was also thinking about honestly doing a contest at some point.
We
I
should.
don't know how you guys feel about that. We could have a contest
good idea.
like we did
Yes,
the last
yeah.
time. Right. Well, we would come up with the concepts behind what we want to see, or maybe even just the price points, and then we would be like, "Hey, make something in this."
This is the
bracket."
set. This is the price point. Let's see what your interpretation of it.
Yeah.
Pretty much the only 2 things I have to say before we move on is the Brickonicle set concept Mangaia Battlepack by TheMOCingbird was pretty cool. Just a small
That-
little lava speeder.
That was such a mouthful.
It really was. It was neat, just a little battle pack with a speeder, you know. But I like it a lot.
That is really, yeah, that's pretty cute. I like that a lot. You know what I really like about this? It's using an old classic Bionicle element.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The Vizrak feet.
The Vizrak feet, yeah. I like that it's bringing that piece
It
back
works.
into circulation, and it works really well. I think that's a clever. That's the one thing that I liked about. I think it was Sokoda's stuff too, where the Rahi designs that a lot of these designs are taking old Bionicle pieces back and bringing them back. I think that's a great idea.
Right.
I think
Sure.
a lot of people would love that. So this is really cool, and I like that it's like a little I don't know, dollar pack that you might find at like Target or something.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they have it for the clones and stuff, where you can get like a bunch of clone troopers if you want to do that. This would be a great way for us to introduce new Matoran designs and Matoran elements for people who want to create their own Matoran. And I'm really looking forward to that. And when the Civil War comes out, especially, this will be really nice to like kind of create
Yeah.
your own army of Matoran and build your own Sig Fig or Sig minifig or Matoran Sig Matoran.
Totally.
In terms of the actual wave of sets, here I'm still a little reluctant to go into that without any kind of like full on script or like structure outline for every episode that we have of
I
the
get you,
season,
I
because I
get you.
want the sets to be relevant in the show.
Right.
And that's part of the problem. Right now, we've
Well-
got like we've pretty much got the first half sort of figured out. So if we really wanted to talk about Winter Wave, we can probably do that.
Let's also be clear too, Var, that like a lot of times the way these things work out, because we're trying to do this thing to be close to
Is that they do the
possible.
sets first and then they add the sets
first and
into
they add the
Yeah.
things
Yeah,
later.
I know.
Or
I'm
they integrate
aware.
them. So we could. It would be.
I think
interesting to,
that-
like, have that like.
I do think that sort of like style of, while it might be what Lego's currently doing, is something that if we were to help out with Lego doing it, we could maybe change up that style a little bit to do our own thing that
Well, the sets
might
take a while
actually
to
help
design,
contribute
but
to the story.
part of the thing too, though, is that like if you just look at any Sokoda's MoCs that he's made up to far, we can integrate them in the show, no problem. No Motara Caravan, you put that in the background of, or have them, they go into Motara and they have to ride the caravan to get there, right? The Mangaian defense tower, that literally could be featured in the first episode, where
That would be in the first episode for sure.
No,
Yeah,
no,
for
yeah.
the Mangaian defense tower could absolutely be in the first wave.
yeah. And different stuff like that. I feel like there are, even the boats and stuff like that. These are the great thing is that because they are vehicles and they're not even like specialty vehicles, except for like the Vorahk's, the one we just talked, Devourer. That one is a special character vehicle that we would have to integrate into the show.
Especially since we're doing flashbacks a lot for the early episodes too.
Yeah,
it'd
we
be
could.
easy to
There's
integrate
like
some of
the Takia submarine, all that stuff. Those are things that the world uses. We can have anyone
You're
use
right.
that.
these. You're right. That's totally true. In which case, do we want to kind of go ahead and pick out what we think would work for wave 1?
Let's save that for the next episode.
Okay.
For a bit. Let's finish this round of like talking a bit, and then like if anyone has ideas of what they want to think, see as a set or anything, now is the time to do them. Next week we will be talking about the sets that we want.
Awesome.
How about that? All right.
That's a good idea. All right. we'll
Before
do
we
that.
move on, there was one final comment I wanted to read about Rahkshi design. Just a thought Matriarch had a while ago. What if, and it was in response to the Kurahk concept by Ragdoll, what if when he takes off the armor, he looks more beast-like? As in that medieval armor he wore. His royal armor was to hide his disfigurement underneath. It's the kind of thing that couldn't really translate
Edgy.
to a minifigure as
Not to
well,
the
but it would
set,
be
but to the
really good
show.
character stuff. And for the show, like he could have armor that he puts on to kind of hide it. And we could just make his face particularly monstrous or whatever, and that
in
would
year
get the
2
job
he
done.
takes it off and he's like the Hulk, and then we can ask him for it to be mold.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that would be very subtle and it wouldn't be immediately noticeable. Like with the Axel fig, his actual minifigure torso underneath could just have some printing on it or whatever. To
Yeah, I
convey
like
that.
that. I like that.
That's not too bad. Yeah, I can
Cool.
I can get behind
kind of
that.
imagine that.
All right.
I'm trying to I'm looking at the armor it has now, and that could totally work.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's
I like that
basically
idea. Cool. All right, so moving gears now, we're going to move away from set designs and physical like, toy stuff into more lore-based stuff. So this next topic, I admittedly don't know too much about it. This is one that
Yeah,
John,
I'll
you
take charge.
picked out. So
Right. This one, there's a guy named oh man, I don't know how to do this name at all. Adnan
What's this guy again?
Yeah, it's this guy.
101993.
the one,
Yeah.
the guy we told him to get a simpler name last episode.
No, this is he posted a topic about the world building story. I know about this thing called shandification, which is a made up term that this guy used. But it's actually it brings up an interesting concept.
I love that I've heard this term again because years ago there was a video I watched by one of the Mass Effect 3 ending people talking about shandification and how Fallout is such a successful game franchise because of it.
This is that same guy.
What this is.
This
Nice.
is the same guy. This actually talks about Fallout. And then there's also another video he made. He posted about how you can tell what a great anime is by its first episode, which admittedly I felt was a little less helpful in the sense that like it didn't give like tools and tips of like if you want to make a good anime, this is what you should include in your first, or this is how you get around that. It was more of like looking at really good anime and like weird, I guess, like tricks they did to show that they had a lot of stuff going on, which is cool, but it probably wouldn't work for the kids show that we're trying to make. Anime is as a different audience. Shandification, it comes from this book called The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy. And essentially the idea is that shandification is how you can show not only the setting. It's an element of world building, and it is an element of the setting, but it's more of like how things have in a normal narrative, things have cause and effect. And that cause and effect has a lot of things that you don't normally see in a story. In a story, whatever that goes on with the cause and effect and with the characters, you have to pick out specifically what you want to tell about. So excluding things that happen that aren't important to your story is part of writing that story. But essentially, one of the things he talked about with Fallout New Vegas is that like there was because you are able to go in video games and explore and create your own narrative in a sense, you're able to analyze and see this cause and effect way better. You create your own narrative on top of that. And that's what made Fallout New Vegas way better than Fallout 3.
Essentially, by the nature of being open world, like there was this random town he used as an example, and it was just a town filled with NPCs or whatever, but one of the questions that he had while playing was, so what do they eat?
Right, exactly.
What do the people in this town eat? And the game actually provides answers for that. You can see it with your own eyes, how they get their food.
In Fallout 3, there's an intro town, and he goes around it, and it looks pretty cool, but he's like, what do they eat? And he can't actually find anything. And Fallout New Vegas, he's doing the same thing where he's like, oh, what do they eat? And then it turns out that they show like farming, they show like the little places where they're growing wheat and like crops and that kind of thing. And he's like, that's just that little bit of detail helped inform part of that world. But on top of that, the thing about shantification and how it applies to something a bit more linear, like our story, is about cause and effect and how those causes affect other things. This is an important deal I was talking about early on, or talking about the Rahkshi, and how I've talked about not having the Peter Parker effect, right? Where it's just like a lot of times in Spider-Man, people just happen to be supervillains and also happen to be closely related to Peter Parker, and there's no direct, like, there's no cause and effect that informs that relationship. It is just a thing that happens, right? So like his teacher, his professor at college is the Lizard. Why? Because he's close to him and he's a character that he knows, like Doc Ock just happens to become Doc Ock, and he also just happens to be the guy that Peter Parker is doing a paper on in Spider-Man 2. Right. Venom just happens to be
who
the
also
guy
just
who's a
happens
rival.
to be best buds with the Lizard in that movie.
Oh, he does too. You're right.
Completely unrelated supervillains in terms
right?
of their villainy happen to be best friends in.
Well,
this,
to be fair, it was Kurt
movie.
Hunter's turn to the Lizard in the original Spider-Man trilogy, but the nature is still there.
Planted him
They
there
clearly were building up to him becoming a supervillain, and the issue with that is that like there's no cause and effect. Now in the newer Spider-Man movies, there was a thing where like Peter's dad worked with Norman Osborn, and that's how all the Spider Blood and stuff happened. And then like with Harry and Peter,
everything was tied to Oscorp.
Everything was it's tied to Oscorp in that way, and so that's a cause and effect story where one person makes a decision, and that decision has different meaningful things, consequences down the line, which is very different from like just so happens that, and that's what Nua's son becoming Vorahk, we were all against that, right? Because it was just like that's too convenient. Just so happens that Anua, who's just kind of this dude,
who
normal
happens
farmer,
to Toa, has a son that happens to become the villain.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's part of it's part of this overall concept when you're creating a story, is to include this cause and effect, and also to include the side details. What do these characters eat? What do these characters do in the universe? They don't need to include them in the first episode of an anime, but like
it doesn't need to be the focal point of anything, but it's just that
Right.
little details in the background that can help really make your world feel like it's being lived in.
He put like a bunch of different examples here, like how cause and effect from the world could have an influence in what happens with the characters. It's kind of a long and complicated thing, but he talks about something could happen to the secretary of somebody who causes them to miss a meeting, which has all this other stuff going on. Very complicated. Probably not something we would make it part of the main story, but again, we made this story. We did the story Bible. We made it with this intention of cause and effect rippling out throughout the universe, and it should be a notion that everyone has kind of going forward.
That's really cool. I like that. It's interesting that there's like a word to describe that now, because I definitely I picked up on that while watching shows that I like and things that just make the world feel like it's been lived in.
Right.
So that's really
That's
cool.
a big part. That was a part of when they did Star Wars again. There's that initial scene where Rey goes home, and you only see her house for that one scene where she makes the bread. You know,
That's
and like,
all you need.
but that's all you need sometimes. What do these characters eat? Oh, they eat magic bread. 1/4 portion.
Mhm. That's why a lot of people were complaining about like the Luke Skywalker milk scene and the fish scene, and I had no problem with it. I actually thought it was great because it showed me what Luke was doing the whole time. Nothing. He was sitting on his island, he was fishing, and he was getting milk, and that was what his life was.
Yes.
Nasty.
It was gross, but it showed us what he was up to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It
no,
showed us how
totally.
he was surviving. So I
And
like that. That's cool.
We we've already kind of done. Tiro's the farming section, right? What do they eat? Well, all the stuff comes from Tiro. How do they get the stuff from Tiro out? Well, there's caravans from Watara and also shipments by Kane. We did create an ecosystem in the story Bible that even though we won't go into in the TV show.
Well, that's why it was
exists.
important to develop those details despite it not actually showing up in the story, because when we go, assuming this gets made and someone's ready to actually animate the thing, we have these details present. So when people go to draw out the backgrounds and stuff, you have things like that there.
Right. And on top of that, too, I would say that, when you build something on top of a system, even though you don't even show the entirety of the system, people that want to look into it will realize it all makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Because
Cool.
it does. We build
All
on
right.
top of that. So, all right. That's all there was.
It's a fascinating topic. That was a really cool thing.
Neat.
Purple's like, I don't care about any of this crap. Let's move on.
It's like,
Serendipity, what's this?
Who cares?
no, I do care. It just felt like I could have been condensed into a few sentences.
Got him! Wrecked.
All right. All right.
No, you're right. Sorry, I'm tired.
I'm offended now.
So is the audience after listening to this. No.
All right, so we've got 12 minutes left on the clock here and 2 more topics to talk about. One's another general
Speed
questions
run.
topic, and the other is a folklore topic. I'm
Well-
not sure if we're going to be able to cover both of them.
Cut folklore.
Let's skip the
general
folklore. Just because. All we have to say is just it was nice to see some folklore.
There's a
applied.
lore. It's pretty folky.
Toa Noah Wafflemeister wrote something there, and you should check it out on the boards.
I will link
But,
it in the description.
Yeah, it's a
Will you
nice little
actually?
story.
Yes.
And,
Yes, I will. Purple.
Stuff like this should you should do more stuff like this basically.
Please.
Cool. All right, so the last topic is general questions. We've been on this topic twice now. Assuming there's new questions that need to be answered.
Yep, there are some new questions, and he did do a great job. This guy, Adnan Ref, the same guy who did it before. What he did before, he categorized it into unanswered questions and answered questions, and he actually
that's really
made a
smart.
transcription of what we said in the podcast.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's
so-
really cool.
Shout out to you for doing that. If people do have more questions, please post them in a topic. And Odin, if you wouldn't mind continuing to do what you've already been doing, that would be great. It would actually be a great way
That's
for people to
extremely helpful.
keep up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super
cool.
helpful. I was telling them,
like
I was like, okay, we got to highlight this topic again and go back to it because some people had asked more questions. So
I like this one question that was answered. Can you please make Mator name Vardaran, John, Messinac, Prpl, and Venethan?
I love that someone thought that Ven's name is Venethan because he always parodies me when I say Jonathan Vaughn. He's like, oh, I'm Jonathan Vaughn. And someone legitimately thought his name was Venethan. He didn't get the joke. He didn't know.
I mean, that's what I've said this before. Every episode is someone's first episode.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Someone
That's why
did
when we
that
open
and
it by
thought it was
screaming
funny.
Mardi Gras, I was like, oh,
Mardi Gras, dude.
Mardi Gras.
all right. No,
I'll
that's
pick
fair.
up on it.
That's okay.
All right.
Right.
So unanswered questions. We've got. Do we want to go through all of them, or are
Yes.
there particular ones you want to highlight, or what?
Let's
try
just
and
go
get
through.
through all.
Let's go through as
All
many
right,
as we can.
Lightning round. All right. First question: is there something like last names or different
No.
Matoran named with the same name like in real life? No.
Maybe the latter.
no.
Maybe.
In
There-
a big world, but
Yeah, it's a big world, and some people do have the
Their
same
last
name,
names.
but they haven't made them yet. Actually, last names were developed off occupation, so that's why names like Smith and Baker and Miller are common in the U.S. because that's who they were. You'd be like, oh, it's Joseph. Joseph who? The Miller Joseph, not the blacksmith.
Joseph Miller.
And then it became Joseph
That's
Miller. Joseph the Miller, and then that's how it started.
Tiribamba Miller.
What?
Bionicle character.
That's how people they would refer to each other by like, or honestly, they would refer to each other by the race first. I would say.
City
like,
bomb by dynamite making.
Yeah, like Narmoto of Mangaia or something.
Yeah, Mangaian.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's probably something we'll have to think about it more probably.
Mhm.
We know the government is corrupt in Kanai. Is there a similar ugly side to the government in the other regions?
All government is corrupt. Down with government. No, I'm kidding.
I would say that there's positives and negatives to every region. Everyone
Yeah,
kind of has their own problem. Everyone kind of has their own thing they're dealing with. Mangai, obviously, it's not necessarily corrupt per se, but there's different ideas of how to make things work, which is kind of the crux of the beginning of the story in our first episode. Is Tahu believing that they need to attack the fire spitters, whereas the rest of them are like, let's not do that. So corrupt. I don't know if I'd use that word, but different and problematic for some areas, sure.
Yeah, that corrupt is the thing that everyone's working for their own self-interest and then like screwing over everyone else in that region. I don't think any of the other regions are necessarily that level of corrupt.
Yeah.
but
Motaro, it was probably the closest to it, but they don't really have.
They don't really have a government. They just kind of have
Yeah.
They just like might makes right in that region, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Not much is said in regards to the government in the Motaro region.
Oh, there
in
we
the
go.
Motaro region. Is there a central government? If not, was there one previously? Why do people decide to settle in such an inhospitable place?
There's a lot of valuable things in the desert. There are things to mine. There are things to import and export.
Craft.
Plus,
And
sometimes people are just like born into that region and can't really afford to leave, right?
Yeah, it's like a thing where it's like you're used to it. You're born in that region, you live there, you know how it works, and you don't really feel like going
Why
to
do
any
people
other
live in
places.
Gotham City?
Yeah, especially when like you have each region kind of broken down by the element and their elemental lord and everyone. Like we've kind of touched upon how there is some kind of like slight racism that we're probably never going to actually delve into really hard, but like
Right.
that it exists.
Right.
It's
So-
implied.
It's better to just like be in your own region and kind of stick with what you know and the people that you're familiar with. With that said,
status quo.
with that said, like there is, I would say that there are some, for some of these characters, they might see benefit in living in a region where there is no one controlling what they can do and where they can go in terms
Right.
of their power and control.
They
And some of them
They
might want to get into
are-
the criminal side of things.
there are people
So
that would benefit from that kind of
if
place.
you read the story Bible, you would also realize that Motara, they basically have a bank, and the bank is in the eye of the sandstorm. So there's no, it's the safest place, but where everyone stores all the gang leaders and everything. That's where they store their money. It's the most heavily guarded. It's the one area that's like kind of a truce between the three gangs. No one will want to mess with the money. Around that, they also provided housing for people who are like working in the mines, for their families or families of mercenaries and that kind of thing, so that they're all well guarded. It's like it's the safest point in Motara is the bank, and that
Yeah.
kind of provides the capital city.
So yeah,
There's
there
also
is
where
no.
the Koli matches are held. The Koli tournaments.
So there's no real central government. It's kind of lawless land, pretty much. It's sort of like you make it, you break it, and you can kind of see the appeal to a region like that. Assuming like if you look at it from the perspective of someone like a Kanayan who feels like they've been screwed over by their kind of more centralized government. So it makes sense if you think about it that way. Anyway,
Totally.
there used to be a temple to a god in the region of Motara, meaning it used to be a theocracy or a religion used to have some power there. How did the merchant kings gain power?
All right,
Very
just because it's a
carefully.
temple doesn't mean that it's a theocracy. We have churches in America. Doesn't mean that it's a theocracy, right? We have
Yeah.
churches and mosques and temples and all that kind of stuff here. But like, just because you build something doesn't mean that like that is what you follow. It's not a theocracy. One, there's no theocracy because the elemental gods don't actually make any rules or impart them on the governing of the Matoran. So
Yeah.
there literally can't be a theocracy. But religion has a meaning in every single one of the regions because obviously the gods do exist and they did something back then. So like everyone was on board of believing in them because, you could see
Yeah.
them and it was like a big deal. Merchant King gains power the same way that anyone gains power. They led the gangs way back, and they also controlled the gates. There are three
They had
gates
strength.
that lead into the
Yeah.
yeah. So that's it. The government.
It's
and-
easy to gain power in Motara because there's no rules or regulations. You just have to
If
have
you
the stronger force.
You get taxed by going in and out of the gate, and that handles all the imports and exports out of Motara. So if you own one of the gates, then you are kind of set for life unless you're overthrown, or you get into really big debt and you have to be like, you have to pay it off somehow.
How do the Rahkshi know their new names? How do they know they have become the Rahkshi?
They
That
make up their own names. It's like their OC or something.
well, that's a good question. I've always kind of wondered like how the Rahkshi why they would adopt new names.
Well, I would say
Maybe
that like
the names
Rahkshi,
mean
the
something
word,
in their language.
yeah, well, Rahkshi, the word means something like a monster or like a
Rahkshi's fun.
It's like Rabid Rahi.
Just their independent names. Perhaps they could mean something. The embodiment of what they're trying to
Right.
achieve.
Well, possibly. We do know.
Some kind
So
of
what we said
spiritual
beforehand is
concept.
that like the great beings, they chose certain like animalistic qualities or animals that they kind of like shaped into Matoran, and this is a
What if-
evolution with the Mask of Time.
What if it's not their names? So like it's just what they're called. So like if Rahkshi means like monster, for instance, and you have someone named Turak, it's just what the Toa refer to that thing as. Turak, fire monster,
Okay.
It's just what
yeah,
that
what
means.
if like because rock could maybe mean monster.
Exactly.
And then she
Rahkshi
could
is
mean-
plural.
She could mean something else or plural, yeah. And then the two, gu, ku could all mean something different. The elements.
Those are all elemental, prefixes. So the
Prefixes,
Turak
yeah,
is
okay.
just fire
Yeah.
monster.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, that's all it is. So they don't actually refer to themselves as Turak. In fact, they probably use their actual names. But the Toa and like the Torn, and whenever you're describing these things, like the Turak,
So
the fire
derisive.
monster. Yeah.
Right.
I like that a lot.
I like that a
So-
lot too. They could
It's
have like
weird.
yeah.
I've gotten so used to calling them Guthulu. I forgot it's actually Kurahk. And it doesn't even hold up because they don't have face tentacles currently.
You're right. We should the original mold. If we ever did the mold, it would have some sort of tentacles.
Yeah.
Or at least just a spot for tentacles.
All right, we
Yeah.
got 2 minutes. So lightning round. How
Go,
does the
go.
biological food nourish mechanical beings? They're not fully mechanical. So they've got mechanical elements and they've got
They're
organic elements.
synthetic.
They've got
they're
botanicals.
They-
kind of like
They still have stomachs. They still have organs.
Yes.
they're very akin to
Same with
to-
reproduction, which is
Yeah.
the second
Yeah.
part.
They're
not purely mechanical.
Breaks down and everything. Yeah.
Do Rahi have variations in their hide, fur, shell color? Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
If not major variations such as blue, green, or purple, what about shades?
Why
I
not
mean,
those two? Fine.
both. Both,
Oh,
yeah.
both.
All of the
Let's go.
above.
Everyone.
Variety's
All
the
of them.
spice of life.
Are Rahi also biomechanical, and if so, to what percentage? I don't know the exact percentage, but they are also biomechanical. They have mechanical elements, and they have organic elements as well.
Yeah,
So-
they are like how do I say it? I use the word
The
synthetic to
same.
kind of like describe biomechanical. It's a different type slightly because Armatoran do grow, so they're not like the armor is not just like in original G1 it was armor and then there was organs
Yep.
of the armor. Not like that here because they do grow. They're kids and then they grow into adults. The armor
Yeah.
has to be a little bit
Indeed.
organic as well.
What would the Rahkshi seek to disrupt trade or supplying between the regions or cities to attempt to steal Rahi used to transport?
No, because that's not their.
That's not their goal. Yeah.
Only
wouldn't
if
do
they
that.
needed to get somewhere. But like, I think they have vehicles.
I mean, yeah, they've got their own means of travel, and also they're just trying to revive Makuta. So they
Maybe
don't
in year
care
2
about
with the
that
Civil
stuff.
War they might try to do some shady stuff, but
Yeah.
right now that's not their goal. They want to get.
Does the volcano have several vents or just one? I would imagine there's probably
Sure.
multiple vents. around
Probably
the
more.
island.
Yeah, but there's
Yeah.
one big one. Yeah,
There's a giant one. Yeah.
yeah.
How each Matoran is going to be living. What are the utilities, if any, and what public building exists in the cities? That is
Haven't thought about
Public
that.
bathroom.
that's going way too far into
Yeah,
things that we
we're
can't
gonna be
really
able to answer that real
answer.
quickly, but the life.
Send
the-
your head cannons.
This is something that people should write about, but it's very fell flesh. It's
Next door.
like a city.
Can the elemental gods die? What can kill them? If the gods die, what happens to the regions they influence? Say
Yes,
Makuta and
a
Akinu
very
group up to-
determined duck can kill them.
I would say that yes. What would happen? I have no idea.
What?
And I think that's probably part of the intrigue to it too. We don't really
Yeah,
know what
well,
would happen if they die.
right.
Maybe we'll get there in the future.
Maybe
It,
we'll
it could
see.
be catastrophic for all we know. An elemental
Yeah.
god dies and that region
The
just explodes
elements
for all we know.
just
The
all the
Matoran
elements
just drop dead.
dies
We have no
off.
idea. But I would say that yes, the elemental gods do have the capacity.
Elemental
to die.
dogs.
Real quick, Sokoda's here. Hey, shout out to Sokoda and the YouTube chat, and he asked if Matoran have to eat metal too. No, they eat normal food, and the food, the way
Metal
that they're
burger.
engineered.
Metal is just like minerals within
it
the
strengthens the, you know, like how there's iron in your blood, whatever. Just
food. You don't eat iron
It
shavings.
works. It's organic protodermis. It works. Just yeah.
Is there such a thing as a
Really.
legal age to participate in something? I mean, maybe.
Participate in the
Never
army. You
thought about
have
it.
to be
Thrive after 18.
You
What?
have to be like 16 or 17 to be in the Mangaian army. I know that for sure. Something like that. You have to
Something
be
like
a
that.
decent age. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Probably, yeah, probably. Depending on the
after-
thing,
in
depending
the
on the
US, you
activity,
can-
depending on the region.
you can drink after you're 21. Drive after 18. I was driving when I was 15, boy. Vote after.
I
Yeah, I
didn't
was
get my
driving when I was
license till I was
14.
18.
So,
Are we going to get a Matoran character similar to the Godfather in the Godfather movie?
Maybe. That'd be
Yes.
cool.
we
we
probably
are-
Watara. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
There's probably gonna be a character like that. Sure.
Are we getting a bestiary?
Possibly.
Bestiary?
Like a
Once we
zoo.
get to that point in time.
Oh, the archive
Yeah.
is probably the closest thing to a bestiary. There's an archive in Tiro,
Yeah.
Archive Maximus, which is kind of like where all the scientists go when they probably do have a bestiary there. We might do our own version of Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, where we like do a little
Wow.
or the Torrance Guide to Rahkshi or something.
All right.
Indeed. Well, that's the end of that topic, everybody, and unfortunately, we are out of time, so we have to wrap up.
Bye.
So we will see you guys next week. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/TheTTV channel. So you can donate $1 a month or more if you decide, and you can join in our live studio audience and chat with us while we're recording these sessions live. It's pretty cool. I'm Var,
I'm Meso.
I'm John.
And I'm Prpl.
and this has been Brainstorm. We will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!
Bye!